Chris, thanks so much for taking time. I know you had a busy day today with everything going on. I've been very intrigued, if only by the title of your book, Conversations with the Moonflower. Most people say you can't judge a book by its cover, but I think this is a book I'd like to judge by its cover because the flower itself seems so welcoming and so interesting. I didn't know that there was such thing as a moonflower, so I guess because I want to know, and I'm sure anyone else picking up the book would like to know, can you just tell me what is a moonflower, first of all?
Well, apparently there are a number of different varieties of moonflower. The one that I describe in the book is a flower that opens only at sunset. There's quite a large plant, and some pods form on the plant. And when they get fully developed, then at sunset the pod will split, and the flower that is inside it will burst open. And I have a video of it, and people think it's time-lapse photography, but it's not. It's
Really?
opening in real time. It can open in completely in 10 seconds time in front of your eyes.
What a wonder. Now,
It is.
how did you become acquainted with such a miraculous plant? I'm assuming, of course, this is all going to be in the book, but
It is.
not to do a spoiler, but I'm sure people want to know, okay, fascinating flower, but how did Chris meet this flower?
My siblings and I had gone back to New York State, where I'm from. My grandmother had a farm down almost to the Pennsylvania border that had been in our family for, well, since 1840.
Wow.
And she had passed away and my father had passed away, and so we were going back to clean out over 100 years worth of living in this farm and get it ready to sell. Her farm is surrounded by Amish farms, and they have been part of our lives all of our years growing up, and that we would go to visit my grandmother. They were part of our experience there. And the night before we left to come back to Utah, an Amish woman who lived down the road, we actually sold the farm to some of her relatives, to an Amish family. She came up and visited with us for a bit, and before she left, she invited us to come down that night and see her moonflower open. And we'd never heard of it, and she just told us that they'll open up before your eyes, and that it was absolutely amazing. And so we went more out of politeness than anything else.
Uh-huh.
But what I saw when I got there just was one of the most enchanting things. It just drew me in, and she could see that. She probably had 20 feet of them growing, and she could see that I was really fascinated by it, and so she offered to give me one, and she did, and we drove it back across the country with us. And so that's how it ended up being in my home in Utah.
Well, for those of us who love flowers, that's fascinating in and of itself, but as with many things in life, I guess they're kind of symbolic of much more than just a beautiful plant. So from what I've gathered in the exposure I've had to your book, it changed your perspective not just on that a plant could do this, but maybe that hidden flower within you as well.
I think that's a really accurate description. I think that all of us have things that we struggle with, and I think all of us at times have struggles accepting our own imperfections. And one of the great lessons that I learned as I would sit at night waiting for this plant to bloom, because it will open in about a 15-minute window. It kind of opens when it's ready, but when it decides it is, the blossoms, different ones on the plant, will just begin opening.
Wow.
But the blossom only lives one night. When the morning light comes up and the sun's rays begin to hit it the next day, the blossom that had opened the night before will fade, and it will eventually fall over and die by afternoon.
That's amazing.
But the next night there'll be new ones to take its place. But as I watched this amazing and unique creation, I began to see parallels in my life, and other people began to see them in their own lives.
Well, I know that many people will most likely be interested in the story just from what you've said, but knowing that there's a deeper meaning to it, that this is something... I remember just when you and I were chatting a moment ago, you said that a lady who was interested in it asked, quote unquote, is this a religious book? And the answer to that is?
It's not a religious book per se. I think it's a spiritual book. It's about universal truths, and it's a book that anyone, regardless of their religious feelings or however they feel about universal truths, will learn something from.
Now, where can people find this book if they want to purchase it?
It is, it's in all bookstores now. It's in Siegel Book, Deseret Book. It's in Costco, Walmart. It's on Amazon.com.
That's wonderful. Now, Chris, just in closing, did you ever foresee, I mean, you didn't know there was such thing as a moonflower. Did you ever know that you yourself were a writer?
It was never something that had ever entered my mind. Um, but over a period of time, this story, and it was a very short period of time, it came to me so quickly, and the ideas for it came so quickly that I began writing them down. And within a week or two of writing these things down every night, when I had a spare minute, I realized that this was kind of starting to shape up into something. And with the encouragement of a very dear friend and neighbor, I worked on it until it was in the form that I could submit it.
Well, I'm sure that not only yourself have reason to be glad that you did, but many others too. Chris, thank you for your time. This is Chris
Thank you.
Hall, author of Conversations with the Moonflower, available, as she mentioned, at many, many outlets. Do you have a website people can go to as well?
Conversationswiththemoonflower.com. So
Excellent. I will look forward to checking that out more myself.
thank you.
Thank you for your time,
Thanks so
Chris.
much.